ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Friday's edition of War Stories. My name, of course, is Ryan Smeltz, and today we are finishing up this week's series on me getting recycled. So if you've never been in the military, or you've never been through Army, OSIT, or basic training, or AIT, then this week's series was basically talking about how, if for any reason you do not finish training, they essentially insert you into another training unit at a time or period when you can finish up the things you missed, the important part. Make sure that you get every training event and everything that you need in order to be successful. So to be honest with you, I've met some people who were recycled, and sometimes it does throw a wrench in the mix. For one reason or another, they don't finish. I'll be honest with you, when I was in training, I actually didn't know that was an option, so I didn't really have that problem. Yesterday, if you didn't listen to the episode, I encourage you to listen to it. I'd love to reconnect with some of those people, including the one I included in the show notes that I didn't talk about in the show, and the one I talked about in the show that I didn't include in the show notes. So if you heard it and you saw the show notes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's my wink to the audience, at least for Thursday's episode, and now you know that I do that sometimes. So today we're talking about being recycled. So we kind of went through understanding that I was with Foxtrot 787. I was essentially with them probably right up to graduation, and then if you've ever been to Fort Leonard Wood, you know that there are two buildings. It used to be Foxtrot 787 and Foxtrot 795. And then 787, the battalion, the training battalion, we called them the spaceships. Now, this was 20 years ago. I don't know if they still call them spaceships, but we call them spaceships. That was the entire battalion, essentially, up to Foxtrot. So Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo were all like these large barracks buildings across the way over by a really nice defect that we got to eat at sometimes. And that's where the entire battalion was, except for Foxtrot 787. It was in one of the old buildings. And looking down the hill, a handful of weeks before, I would say about maybe 4 weeks before Foxtrot 787 graduated, the building down the hill filled. So it was actually empty, and we didn't know anything about it, and there was nobody there. Just the occasional person walking around maybe, and then it filled. And we learned that was Foxtrot 795. So 795 battalion was on the other side. That was essentially all the old buildings. There was nothing super high-end or fancy about them. And now, to this day, I haven't been there since 2013, and I don't think I really checked out basic training land per se when I was there, but they may have built new buildings. Who knows? Maybe someone who is there or has been there recently can let us know in the comments. But looking down that hill, we saw basically the training unit filled, very similar to how we came in, but now, you know, we're 17 weeks into training, so we're high speed, you know, almost like we're adults at this point, but really we're 17 weeks into the military, so what do we know? But they filled. We saw the shark attack. That was exciting to kind of see it from a third-party perspective. One thing we noticed is they seem to get phone time and day passes number one in red phase, which I could be wrong, but I feel like we got one phone call when we got there, and that was to call home. I want to say they give us 60 seconds. It might have been 2 minutes. You got to call home, tell mom and dad, hey, I made it here in one piece. More than likely, so the drill sergeants didn't continue to field phone calls from family members. Is my son or daughter okay? You know, and then, hey, it's going to be a while before you hear from me again. Then I feel like we didn't get another phone call until white phase, at least. I could be wrong, but it seemed like they got a phone call like once a week when they got there. And day passes, they were marching to the shopette or walking to the shopette on the weekends. But who knows? Essentially, I got recycled right after their BRM, which is basic rifle marksmanship. So that is, I believe, the first week of white phase, or back then it was. And the reason that I know this is because right before I got recycled, right before I got taken, it was essentially just there was a paper shuffle that I was almost unaware of. And then my drill sergeant walked me down the hill and was like, hey, you used to be up there and now you're down here. So I did have to get a new battle buddy, learn who my drill sergeants were. I had to get integrated. But it was kind of easy because I had already done it. So coming into white phase, you know, taking the PT test, I passed that with no issues because, like I said, I already did it. I had already taken the phase 5 PT test, so the phase 3 PT test wasn't anything. I had already done a lot of the classes. The 3 things which I think we talked about before was the law class, the Humvee course, and the grenade range. Those are the 3 things that I had missed the first time that I got to do this time. But the reason I know they had just finished BRM is, number one, I went from 3rd platoon in Foxtrot 787 to 4th platoon Foxtrot 795, and when I got to 4th platoon, they had the BRM banner on their guidon or whatever, but also because right before I got walked down the hill, they had a pizza party. So I guess they won or whatever. They got the highest scores out of the whole company, and so the drill sergeants bought them pizza, which I thought was interesting for a training platoon in the first week of white phase. But hey, why not, you know? Not necessarily allowed to eat whatever you want in the defect, but shoot really well and we'll feed you pizza. Which was also, now that I think about it, a little ironic, because you would think maybe you would do that for PT but not for shooting. If I shoot well, maybe I want to do more shooting. I don't know, just my thoughts on that, but it was pretty cool getting integrated into a new platoon. I'll tell you one of the biggest differences I noticed when I got down the hill to 4th platoon Foxtrot 795, and that is in 3rd platoon Foxtrot 787, they kind of rotated platoon guides on a regular basis. So it might be a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, somewhere in there, and they're rotating in another one. They're like, okay, you did a good job, you did a bad job, get out of here, give me the Brizard, get a new person up there. And I like that, especially in a sense of when I went to PLDC or WLC or whatever it's called now. They did the same thing with the unit first sergeant, the platoon leaders or platoon sergeants, and the squad leaders. They rotated out on a regular basis, and what I really like about that is they kind of looked for the people who had a lot of opportunity or were performing very well and gave them more opportunities. So that was really cool. I like that way of choosing it. I like cycling people through. However, in Foxtrot 795, what it looked like is essentially they didn't really want to go through the rigmarole of choosing somebody new. I could be wrong, but I think the entire time we were there, we had 2, maybe 3 platoon guides, and I feel like it was pretty much when one of them pissed off the drill sergeants, they basically got one of the other ones, and by the time they cycled through 2 or 3 people, they were just like, all right, these are the ones we want to stick with, that we're happy with, that we deal with, and if you piss us off, we'll just put the other guy back in there, which was kind of funny. But I also had to make some new friends, so the one drill sergeant down there I distinctly remember is Drill Sergeant Hubbard. I mean, by now, a lot of these drill sergeants, if I talk about any of them, they're probably retired, because at the time, I feel like E5 sergeant, drill sergeant was few and far between. Most of them were staff sergeants or higher, and they also probably had a minimum of 10 years in, and it has been, like I said before, 17 years since I went through basic training, so maybe 1 or 2 of them are still around, but who knows. And then in the show notes, you'll see I put Alex Petrowski, so if you don't know him, we actually had him on the show. So this is where I met him in basic training. 4th Platoon, Foxtrot 795, and he is the guy we had on who is currently a pilot. He flies commercial airlines for in the civilian world, and then for the Army, he flies. I guess, you know, go watch the episode. Definitely, I guess you would kind of call it PJs for like senior ranking officials, but they're not actually private jets. But they're more like kind of more exclusive. So maybe it's a quick trip for just a high-ranking person and his staff, generals or what have you. But definitely, once again, go back and listen to that episode. Yesterday, I talked about Charles Kennedy. I encourage you to look for that episode as well. That one is way, way back. I had him up here in person. So those are 2 very quality individuals who have been in now for, like I said, 17 years. So they are probably eyeing retirement at a minimum. But if you're in the military or you're thinking about enlisting or going commission, for the commission route, Alex Petrowski would be a good person to talk to, because he definitely switched over, went to flight school after basic training. And then if you just want to make some rank, stay enlisted, or do something cool, like I said, Charles Kennedy is PSYOPs, so he's part of the special operations team, and still enlisted. So I think both of those guys, those would be 2 solid episodes to listen to. So that's what I got for you today and this week. Next week, I do not have completely planned out yet. However, we're going to continue along my journey. Some more people I met, some more things I did in training, as we slowly but surely inch toward that graduation and me getting assigned to my first duty station. So if you were a part of it, be sure to correct me in the comments section, or go to the website veterantalkshow.com or businessandbrewshow.com and drop us a line there. You can also find all the platforms we're on wherever you listen to podcasts or watch the podcast, YouTube, Facebook, or Spotify. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and most importantly, tell your friends to subscribe as well. My name, of course, is Ryan Smeltz. This is War Stories, and I will see all of you next week.